It's a great reward for these kids, and I think, I think that these kids are hungry. I think they want to finish on another positive note and play the absolute very best that they can. Obviously, to play on ESPN is a great exposure for the program around the country, and it should be a fun experience up there, and it should be a great night.
December 21st, 8 p.m. at Tropicana Field. It's FIU and Temple. The Panthers will play in the third bowl game in program history while searching for a school record 9th win. On episode 5 of Panther Talk with Butch Davis, we recap the 63-point regular season finale, what this bowl game means for the team with the number of players getting to return home, and much more. I'm AJ Ricketts. This is Panther Talk with Butch Davis. All right, another episode of Panther Talk with Butch Davis. A tremendous conclusion to the regular season. It's Monday afternoon recording this, and FIU, I think, just scored another touchdown here, Coach. What an offensive explosion. A program record for points, yards gained. Freshmen stepped up, but man, it seems like every time UMass got into the game, the offense was ready for the challenge.
Yeah, I tell you what, it clearly was the best offensive performance that we had this entire season, and there was a lot of it that was outstanding. And it starts with the fact that we were able to run the ball unbelievably effective. We ended up rushing for 381 yards, and when you can control the line of scrimmage and you can have that much success, and it took a lot of people. It took even Alex Magoo had over 100 yards rushing, but the running backs did a great job, the offensive line. And then that's what really helps you set up big-time explosive plays. Some of the big plays that we had, the pass play, to Bryce Singleton and some of those guys, the big 30, 40, 50-yard plays down the field. Darius Scott had one early in the ball game, and those came as a result of them having to load the box to try to stop the run. Now you put guys in single one-on-one coverage, and now you get a chance with Alex to take advantage of that. We were also 7 for 7 inside the red zone, being able to score, and for Panther fans that are out there, this will be a great statistic that you need to know. We finished second in the nation in all college football. We scored 39 out of 40 times that we got the ball inside.
Yeah.
Second only behind the University of Georgia, and they beat us because they ended up having more opportunities. I think they were 43 out of 44. So obviously offensively it was a big day. Defensively, I wish we would have played better, and we could have and we should have played better. We missed some tackles. We knew going into the game that they were a very, very good passing attack. That they give you a lot of play action. They give you a lot of things schematically to try to take advantage of your secondary. But the big thing that our defense did do, and this is the foundation of good defense, creating turnovers. We created 3 turnovers that spoiled the momentum.
Putting inside the 5-yard line.
Inside the 5-yard line, and then Brad Muhammad blocking a field goal. So that's like a 4th turnover that you don't really, because it looks like a chip shot of a field goal, and he comes off the edge and blocks it. And the defense rose up when they needed to.
Alex Gardner, his first 100-plus yard game since the Alcorn State contest. You talked in the press conference after. Look, he'd been around a lot of great running backs before. You had teams that went 3-4 deep with NFL players. And that's the case again this year. Look, Alex had a great performance in his last game at home. Napoleon had a couple big carries, too, later in the game. Shondarius as well. How does that when you have 3? I mean, how confident were you at the start of this year that all 3 could contribute?
I'd like
the
to
way
have
they
5.
have?
I want to have 5. I'm selfish.
Yeah.
And this is the truth. And kids are starting to understand. It's not about like you're the number 1 running back and you're going to get the majority of the carries. This is about having great running backs to put the pressure on the defense, to have fresh guys in the game. Obviously, when I had Clinton Portis and Willis McGahee and a lot of those kinds of guys, Najee Davenport, James Jackson, you could roll in every second or third possession. New guy, electric. Their legs are fresh. They can get into the game. They can change the completion. And as the defenses begin to wear down, they don't like chasing running backs that run 4.4 and 4.5, and you put the heat on them. And the days in the old days when you used to have maybe 55, 60, 65 offensive plays and maybe 30 of them were runs, you couldn't do that. But now when you're having 85 and 90 plays on offense, now one guy can't can't play every snap. Two guys can't play every snap. So this is a great opportunity, and the kids do a great job with it.
Throughout the game, especially after his 60-yard dash to the end zone, Magoo led the team in rushing. Not one of those three running backs. Alex Magoo was leading the team in rushing. He ended up with 108 rushing yards, which was tied for the lead with this senior player Alex Gardner. What an incredible performance! He has speed.
Yeah,
too.
he does.
He has great speed.
And it was evident in that because nobody caught him. And let me just tell you something. He talked smack in the locker room to all the running backs out of that game, man, that he was the guy that hit the home run and stuff. But schematically, the play was set up perfectly. The execution was obviously really good. The eye discipline with all the fakes and all the potentials of it being an option play, which we'd run earlier. They're flying to the pitch guy, and they leave the middle of the field open, and Alex did a great job of reading, and he scooted into the end zone. But, we could sit here and we could do multiple shows and talk about how important that Alex Magoo has been to this football team. I mean, he throws the ball extremely well. He's a great leader. He's a playmaker. He is tough. Let me just tell you something. I mean, he doesn't go into that football game playing like a fragile Fabergé egg. I mean, he's going in, he's diving for first downs, running into guys, trying to run over tacklers. And
Hurley every other play said, I'm going to go down there and tell him, don't take the hit, Alex. I said,
exactly.
Hurley, I'm enjoying this.
Try to slide or try to get out of bounds and stuff.
What'd you tell him when he came back to the sideline after that 60-yard dash? I noticed you pulled him back and had a quick word for him.
I just talked to him, and I just told him, I said, what a phenomenal read, because it was a little bit of an adjustment at halftime. We'd figured out how they were trying to play a lot of those things. And that's, AJ, one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is what a great job that these assistant coaches have done. The fundamentals, the teaching, the schemes and things in all three phases, offense, defense, and special teams, as the season's gone along, they've gotten better, and they are doing an excellent job of halftime adjustments. A lot of the adjustments take place at the possessions during the first and the second quarter, but you get about an 8, 10, 12-minute meeting at halftime, and you can kind of, by now, game plans have started to kind of show themselves, and it's like, okay, that's not going to work today. This is what they're doing, but here's what we can do to take advantage of that, and that's obviously what ended up with Alex's long run.
How proud were you of that point in the fourth quarter? They decided to go for the field goal at the 5-yard line. That would have cut it to a one-possession game, an 8-point game.
Yep.
Brad gets the block. 2 plays, 80 yards later, you're in the end zone. Then an interception and another 5-play score. Just like that, it's a 3-possession game when it could have been an 8-point game. That was the turning point.
And AJ, we talked about it. Our defensive kids, ever since the very first practice in the spring, we talked about how important it was. You never know when an opportunity is going to present itself, and our kids on defense, they give phenomenal effort on extra point and field goal blocks every single time, and you never know. And we've talked about it. Week 1, week 2, week 3. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Well, last week against Western Kentucky, we actually forced 2 missed field goals, and one of them almost got tipped. Well, you just keep giving great effort. Everybody does their job, and all of a sudden now Brad comes free off the edge. He blocks a field goal that was an unbelievable momentum swing.
Now time to move forward and start talking bowl games now. There's no more regular season games to look forward to. We can talk postseason. And what was your feeling heading into the? I mean, there are a lot of different projections from Boca Raton, which some people are like, that'd be great. It's close to home. At the same time, kids deserve a trip. St. Pete was in the mix. Even the Independence Bowl with some projections. What were you anticipating if you were anything? And what was the thought process once the game ended?
I think if there was a hope, I think the hope was that we'd be able to stay in the state of Florida. The 3 opportunities to stay there, only from the selfish standpoint that now, and we're beyond excitement about the opportunity to go to St. Pete, because now the kids' families can go to these games. They're drivable. It's going to be in a great location in St. Pete, playing at the Tropicana Stadium, and it'll be a great location to be able to play the game. But now, their friends, their families and stuff will be able to go. If you get sent someplace, and one of these days maybe we will be in Texas or New Mexico or all the way out to Arizona. You never really know, maybe even into Louisiana. There was a little bit of talk that we might be going to go to New Orleans. And those are all great locations and good opportunities. But I think for these kids to have their families be able to make sure that they can go to the game is really important. And so when the word came down that we were going to go to St. Pete yesterday, I think everybody in this program was unbelievably excited. Brett Delaney, the commissioner of the bowl game, is a great guy, and they have run a great bowl game. And coincidentally, I've gone there when I was working for ESPN to some of their functions in the springtime, so I've known him and I've watched the kind of bowl game that they put on, and they do a great job supporting the community. There's a lot of functions that our kids are going to get a chance to go and do, and it should be a great experience.
You've been really successful in bowl games. Obviously, getting to that Sugar Bowl. Miami didn't lose a bowl game with the Canes, and then I think Music City Bowl was the last one. Then you got the victory in North Carolina. What is key in preparation? What is critical in preparation for these things as you got a little bit more of a break, obviously?
Yeah, well, one of the things is to get the kids fresh right now. I mean, we've got a lot of balls in the air right now. Coaches are recruiting, so our kids are getting a chance to recuperate, get their legs back. I mean, at the end of the season, and not just us, but a lot of teams are beat up. You're physically, you've been in contact, you've been playing physical games. Guys have got sore legs, shoulders, ankles. So now we get a chance to get healthy, get well as much as we possibly can, get our legs fresh. This week, kids are focusing almost exclusively on treatment and all those kinds of things, a little bit of jogging, a little bit of running, some weightlifting and stuff. And then next week, we'll get back into some practices where we'll really start to focus on the opponent, and we'll kind of juggle those practices with trying to continue to recruit in the afternoons and the evenings and be able to make some home visits.
Those bowl practices always wonderful. Coaches rave about them, but in year one, how extra valuable are they?
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, you think you get a chance, not necessarily that you're starting spring practice, but there's going to be some experimentation. We're actually going to juggle some of the young kids on the roster and experiment with them over these next 10 to 12 practices that we have leading up to the bowl game, and it keeps you from having to do those experimentations in the springtime when you get there the 1st of March and now you're trying guys and you only get 15 practices. So this is almost like a second spring practice. Even though it'll be focused on Temple, there'll be some days that we're going to really focus on a lot of the young kids, give them a chance to really get coached a little bit and get them set for the spring.
I want to ask you here as we wrap things up. Once T.O. got hurt in the past couple of weeks, have you noticed a difference? I mean, we've seen the difference in the games.
Sure.
All of us out inherently with Singleton and Thornton. But have you seen that difference in practice and throughout the final weeks of the season from all these young guys that have stepped up, especially Bryce with his 3-touchdown game?
People didn't talk about it, and I'm going to tell you somebody that was hurt, and we just got back last week, was Julian Williams. Yeah. He and T.O. were the original 2 starting wide receivers on this football team. And then, obviously T.O. got hurt. He was having a great year. Julian has been injured with a knee and with a pulled groin for almost 5.5 to 6 weeks, and it was great to get him back in there because with this offense, you need to play 5 or 6 receivers every single game. And I mean, when those 2 guys stepped out, a lot of guys had to step up. Bryce Singleton being one of them, Shamar Thornton being one of the 2 young freshman kids, but Tony Gator and Darius Scott, they stepped up, and so they were able to complement and be able to fill in for those guys. In every game that they've been able to play, their confidence has gone up, their experience has gone up, and they feel like that they're ready to play at the next level.
And Shane Magoo stepped in for Neal, didn't he?
He did. Yeah.
Magoo to Magoo. And how do you feel the young player stepped in along the line?
Well, the best thing is all of his passes were completed. He was 100 for 100 in shotgun snaps to his brother, and it was good. I mean, he'd gotten a chance to play a little bit earlier where he'd gone in and spelled Neal from time to time. He played very good. It's his first clear start, but he went in, he was physical, he was tough, and it's a lot of pressure on a center to come in because you've got to identify the fronts, you got to talk about the protections, you got to communicate up and down the line of scrimmage, and it was a good baptism under fire.
Coach, last thing here, December 21st, night of the bowl game, ESPN. Prime time. It's a great opportunity for exposure for the program. These players gonna get to play over at Tropicana Field. I mean, this is a wonderful way to conclude the season.
Yeah, no doubt about it, AJ. And it's a great reward for these kids. And I think I think that these kids are hungry. I think they want to finish on another positive note and play the absolute very best that they can. Obviously, to play on ESPN is a great exposure for the program around the country, and it should be a fun experience up there, and it should be a great night.
Ready to see what's dialed up in the playbook for that one. I mean, we opened it up a lot in this last game. You never know what'll happen in bowl games, too.
No doubt about it. You better be prepared for the unexpected on both sides of the ball.
I got to brush up on my trick play formations and everything, make sure I'm good to go. Chat with her a little bit. Coach, congratulations on win number 8. We'll chat soon, but looking forward to the trip to St.
Thank you, AJ.
All right, that's Panther Talk with Butch Davis. We'll see you guys next week.